So in this discussion, we would now look into spatial information depictions and presentations. The spatial representations are depicted generally through pictorial methods in the form of sketches and more precisely and effectively through maps. The distinction between maps and sketches is its precision and accuracy of spatial representations, where sketches are symbolic representations which are drawn generally to depict relative distances and exaggerated themes. Needless to say that maps are the best way to spatial information's representation. So map can be said as symbolic representation of selected phenomena of a place. Maps present information, mostly spatial, about the real world visually. The map displays symbiotic relationship between elements such as phenomena and its association. And these associations can be characteristics of places, the locational features, the distribution of the phenomena, the pattern which would be visible over the Earth's surface regarding that phenomena, and the trends, if there are any, in relation with the time. There might be some changes in the phenomena. So these trends can also be depicted in the maps. As it was explained in our previous session, that the spatial informations are represented and displayed with respect to its display of phenomena, where we would be highlighting what is the phenomena which is existing at any specific location. Then also we may discuss about the existence of that phenomena. That means how this phenomena has evolved and evolved at that specific location only, and elsewhere the same phenomena has not been evolved in the same manner. The third can be the interactions, which would be defining as to how and why these phenomena which are existing at location are existing in a certain way. So, and the interactions between the natural, man-made, social, cultural, human interference in the nature, all of them, they would be evolving the phenomena at that particular location, and in the map we might be able to display it more effectively. Now we all know that all these interactions, they are very complex. So the earth realities are very complex and they are dynamic, so they keep on changing. So it is not possible to show all the information of an area on a map. Thus, display vary according to the requirement. It all depends on the requirement, and we intentionally highlight some of the phenomena, some characteristic of the phenomena, and we may hide insignificant phenomena in a map. Here I would say that the scale and purpose of the maps are fundamental to the preparation of any spatial information representation in the form of map. So map can be defined as representation of a selection of material or abstract features of the earth, but they are being represented on a flat plane in relation to the scale. So spatial information is the display idea of selection of features in the real world. So here we would be highlighting some features in any map. Then another can be, we may classify the selected features in the group. For example, some specific type of houses in any area, some specific mode of transportation in any area. So here the classification would be on the basis of certain features of the phenomena. Then we may also be displaying the simplified form of certain phenomena. For example, the jagged line like coastlines, they might be simplified. That is also a display idea of any map. Then just Opposite to it, we may be exaggerating some of the features which may be a little small, in relation with the scale, but might be very important in the context of spatial information representation. So in that case, we might be exaggerating that particular smaller features more to emphasize our spatial information representation. The next can be the symbolization, which is the effective way to give more information, clear information within a map, within the spatial representation of any phenomena. The role of maps can be, in that sense, would be first data display. So the maps will provide useful ways of displaying spatial information in an effective manner, in a meaningful way. The spatial information can be stored also in a map. So here in a map, it may act as data storage. It means that storing the spatial information. Then it might also be used as spatial indexes, where a map can show the boundaries of an area. For example, any soil area, any land use zones, or rock types, etc. So the entire phenomena would be bounded by certain specific boundaries, and they can be also stored within a spatial entity in a map. Then these maps can play a very vital role as data analysis tool. Here maps are used in analysis to make or test hypotheses and examine the relationship between two or more spatial information distribution using the overlay operations. Spatial representation in modern times in digital mode has resulted into digital spatial presentations executed through computer in digital format. This has led to changeover to computer mapping, which has importantly digital technology to support. It helps us in processing large volume of spatial data. I mentioned this earlier also, that with time, when we have adopted more and more the digital technology, the volume of data has increased significantly, which through traditional spatial representation is difficult because it is quite voluminous. But now in modern day time, we have efficient processor in the form of computer system, and the large volume of data can be easily handled. Then another can be the access to this voluminous spatial information. That's also very important and significant, that the easy access in digital format has revolutionized the use of spatial information. And moving ahead, I would say that digital technology has also made possible quick processing and better display. And this display can be user defined, where we might have the ability to easily modify the display in our spatial representation through maps. So this is also a very important advantage of spatial information in digital mode. Then the digital technology and in computer cartography, we have the advantage of modeling the results. You see, when we have the ability of quick processing of voluminous data, the results can also be tailor designed to highlight some of the phenomena, some of the trends, some of the patterns, and we may bring back the less significant spatial information. And this is also a very important advantage of digital technology and digital mode of spatial information. And lastly, I would say that this entire technology has reduced the cost and time of map production, and above all, editing is quite easy and efficient in this particular mode. All in all, I would say that the display adds on in using the computer system has increased the ability to browse across an area without interruption by map sheet boundaries. Because traditionally, when we were using maps and spatial information in paper format or in analog form, there the extended areas of any phenomena was not been able to covered in one sheet. So we might be using many sheets, and here the browsing is very efficient, can be very efficient in this particular mode. Now, another important advantage of this technique would be that this has increased the ability to change the scale very easily, where we may zoom in and zoom out according to our need. And there is also potential of modeling of time-dependent data, because we can store the digital data and then we can utilize it as and when we require it. The interpretation potential has also increased because we have now better display format in this particular, with the help of this particular technique. Moving forward, I would say that the spatial representation can be of different types for different purposes and utility. I mean to say that the maps or the representation of spatial information can be represented according to the purpose and the utility. And some of the examples, such as on the basis of scale, it can be large scale maps where large amount of details can only show a small area. So here there would be fewer elements for us to analyze and examine. On the contrary, small scale map, they have small amount of detail, can show a large area. Now, this kind of map can be complex but generalized. And in the bottom side, you can see that we can have a world map with 8 feet of width and 6 feet of height. And the same map can be in a piece of paper, in a book also, which would be somewhere around 6 inches length and width. So that way, the kind of information which we might be representing in the spatial information would be far different. And on the right side, if you look into the image, you would understand that when there is large scale, how big the city appears. It is the entire perimeter of the city. And river is also a polygon kind of thing, whereas in small scale, although it represents larger area, but details are lesser, where city would be represented by a point and river would be represented by a line. So that is what the difference when we change the scale. So this is one way of representing spatial information, and this kind of map is dependent on the size of the scale. Some more examples are like reference map, which represents the location of the geographic area of interest. It might display the boundaries, the name also, and also many geographic areas. It is mostly used for features and to represent the features and their relationship. The features include natural or man-made, for example, road, railway line, coastlines, etc. Then another kind of map can be said as thematic map. It represents the spatial distribution of one or many specific data themes for selected geographic area. It can be again qualitative, for example, farm types, etc., which would be representing the qualitative data, qualitative spatial information. And another way would be the quantitative maps, which would be representing the statistics in different way. For example, percentage of population change, sex ratio, population concentration, or performance of agricultural activity in terms of productivity, high, medium, low, drawing using certain statistical technique. They would be representing certain figures and statistics that would be known as the quantitative maps. Spatial representations can be also on the basis of utility and purpose, also like general maps. Very commonly we use topographical map, which in our country Survey of India prepares. The topographical maps in India is available for the entire country. These are general purpose maps and are drawn generally at quite large scales. Topographical maps show all kinds of physical features, landform, water features, forest, etc., and also man-made intervention into the natural features, for example, settlement, agricultural fields, transportation, etc. Then another kind of general maps which we commonly use in modern day are the weather map. It is generally being prepared by meteorologists to display all kinds of weather data. There can be spatial data, spatial variation and phenomena related data, which related spatial representation, which we call it as thematic map. So any phenomena, if it is represented with the help of the legend, we would be producing and utilizing the thematic map. Then there can be special purpose maps. Now here we are highlighting the maps on the basis of purpose and utility. So one of the important purpose in modern day is military maps, which is related with strategic informations. Generally these maps are not available for common man, but these maps are very important for any country or any society. Then another might be the navigational charts, which are used by those, especially in aircraft and the ships in sea when they move on over the sea. So these navigational charts are also very important. They have the purpose of reaching destination using their skills, not only the skills but also to avoid certain areas and to adopt a certain path to reach the destination. Now we would highlight the spatial information representations and their representation characteristics. For example, if you look into this particular map, it's a world map, and I would try to highlight only the location of Delhi. So you have to struggle to find out Delhi. If you are not familiar with world map, if you are not familiar with India, then it will be very difficult to locate Delhi. Why? Because it's a small entity in any world map. So that's an important and interesting issue which I would be highlighting. Now, if you change the scale, and with smaller the scale, now you can relatively easily locate the location of Delhi. Moving ahead, even smaller scale, now within the map of India, we can easily identify the location of Delhi, and it will be also easily available. Even more smaller scale, and you can observe that how details are increasing with change of scale. So this is also very important in the context of how we represent the phenomena and how we represent the location, depending on the purpose and the utility. So in this context, now we bring in spatial information representation elements, where the first can be the frame. The frame can be said as the extent of display. Another can be the coverage. Coverage is the entire mapped area. The third important point would be the title. Title is the phenomena which is being represented or the space represented in that particular frame. Then another can be the orientation. Now it's very interesting. Orientation is representing direction. Normally we use north direction, which is on the top of which is upward directed. But in many maps you would find it differently, and in the past we have this orientation played a very important role in the kind of preparation which we prepare the maps in different way and in different context. The most important, I would say, is one of the most important is the scale, which depicts the resolution, which means the details of spatial representations. The next can be the legend, which helps us in reading the spatial information which is being represented in any specific map. And lastly, I would say the projection. Now, projection is very important and critical for preparing any map, and that make distinction between a sketch and a map, because scale and projection, they are integral to the preparation of any map. So projection is the conversion of process of three-dimensional space onto two-dimensional flat plane. This is very important and significant, and it plays a very important role in the preparation of any map and representing any spatial location of the Earth's surface in a flat plane area. Now, another interesting fact which I would like to highlight here is that using and adopting appropriate projection was quite a task earlier when we were using traditional method of preparation of map. But now what happens in digital technology, once we bring the map, bring this spatial information, adopting and using any projection,